The account has been open for 4 years. The balance has never been higher than $60. You opened it at 22, the week after your first real paycheck, because a coworker mentioned it in passing, and it seemed like something responsible people did. You transferred $25 to make it feel real. It sat there. It is still sitting there 4 years later, occasionally dipping to $4 or $9 when the timing of a bill lands wrong, then climbing back to $40 or $50 that never actually goes anywhere. You have stopped thinking of it as savings. You think of it, if you think of it at all, as a second checking account with a different name. This is not a story about hitting rock bottom. Nothing dramatic happens. No eviction notice, no repossession. Just the quiet, grinding math of $2,100 a month coming in and $2,090 going out, give or take, depending on the week. You are not failing. You are not succeeding. You are maintaining, and maintaining when you are 26 years old does not feel like anything is wrong until you stop and actually look at it. You look at it on a Tuesday, nothing prompts this. There is no crisis. You are eating cereal standing at the counter because sitting down for a meal alone in your apartment has started to feel like a decision you don't want to make twice a day, and you open your banking app out of habit, the way you check your phone for no reason 40 times a day, and you see the number, $847 in checking, $52 in savings, $2,300 in student loan debt that has not moved in 14 months because you have only ever paid the minimum. You do the math you always do, automatically, the way you've done it for 4 years without ever writing it down. $847 minus rent, which is due in 6 days. $847 minus the car payment, due in 11 days. $847 minus the 2 bills you already know are coming because you know your own life. What's left, after all of it clears, is somewhere around $180. $180 for gas, for food, for anything that isn't already accounted for. $180 is not a number that leaves room for anything. It is not a number that leaves room for saving. It is a number that leaves room for surviving, and only barely. You put the phone down, you finish the cereal. Nothing about the day changes, but something about the week changes. A question starts forming, not loudly, not as a decision, just as a low background hum that wasn't there before. The question is something like, how long does this go on? Not dramatically, not as a crisis, as a simple, quiet arithmetic question. If nothing changes, what does 30 look like? What does 35 look like? You do not have an answer. And the not having an answer is what bothers you more. You start doing something you have never done before. You start reading at night on your phone, in bed, in the 15 minutes before you fall asleep that used to belong to nothing in particular. Not motivational content. Not people telling you to want it more. You're already tired of wanting things. You start reading about mechanics, about how a paycheck works structurally, about the difference between money that requires you to keep showing up. You read one sentence that stays with you longer than anything else. It says that the reason most people never save anything isn't because they don't earn enough. It's because saving requires a decision made repeatedly, forever, and the human brain is bad at repeated decisions. It is good at automatic ones. You read that sentence 3 times. You do not fully understand yet why it matters. You will understand later. 2 weeks after the Tuesday with the cereal, you do the smallest possible thing. You set up an automatic transfer, $30, every payday, moved out of checking and into savings the same day the paycheck lands, before you can see it, before you can decide against it. The $30 is not a number that changes anything. $30 a paycheck is $60 a month. You know this. You do it anyway. Mostly because it is small enough that you cannot talk yourself out of it, and that, it turns out, is the entire point. You forget about it. Not intentionally. It just stops requiring your attention because it stops requiring a decision. The transfer happens whether you think about it or not. This is the first time in 4 years that money has moved towards savings without you having to choose it in the moment. And the not choosing is what makes it survive. 3 months in, the account is at $232. This includes the original $52. It has more than tripled, and it is still, functionally, nothing. You do not feel anything looking at it. It is not a number that changes how you live. The first test comes in month 5. The car needs brakes. $310. You have $232 in savings and $340 in checking 4 days before rent. You pay for the brakes out of checking, and for 11 days you eat the way you used to eat in college, and the $30 transfer still happens on payday because you never turned it off, because turning it off would have required a decision, and the whole design was to remove decisions. The account does not grow that month. You are 27. The transfer amount goes up to $60 a paycheck, not because you decided to be more disciplined, but because you got a $1.50 an hour raise and moved the entire raise into the transfer before your spending had a chance to notice the money existed. Your rent is the same. Your groceries are the same. The only thing that changed is a number in an account you rarely look at. The account crosses $1,000 on a day you don't remember because you weren't looking for it. You notice it 3 days later, almost by accident, checking your balance for an unrelated reason. $1,043. You stare at it for a moment. There's no music, no moment, nothing external marking the occasion. You go back to what you were doing. This is worth saying clearly. The emotional experience of reaching a milestone you have never reached before is almost nothing. You expect it to feel like something. It does not. It feels like a number. The feeling comes later, and it comes from a different place entirely. Not from the milestone itself, but from noticing that you didn't have to think about the milestone to get there. You are 28. The debt is gone. Not through some dramatic payoff, just through 18 months of paying $40 more than the minimum every month, on autopilot, the same way the savings transfer works. Money you don't see is money you don't miss. This is the entire lesson repeated in every direction of your financial life. What you don't see, you don't spend. What you automate, you don't abandon. The savings account is at $3,900. You have never had $3,900 in your life. You do not upgrade your apartment. You do not buy anything to mark the moment. You increase the transfer again to $150 a paycheck because your income went up slightly, and you have gotten good, almost mechanically good, at moving new money into the system before your life expands to absorb it. Something shifts around this point that is hard to name precisely. It is not confidence, not yet. It is closer to a change in tense. You stop thinking about money only in terms of what is happening right now, this week, this bill. You start being able to think about money 6 months out, a year out, without the thought collapsing under its own unlikelihood. At 26, thinking a year ahead felt like fiction. At 28, it starts to feel like a spreadsheet. Something you can actually model because the ground under you has stopped moving long enough to build something on it. You are 30. The account, now split between savings and a small investment account you opened almost as an afterthought, is at $14,600. You still live in the same apartment. You still drive the same car, now paid off, still running. Nothing about your daily life looks different from the outside. This is, in some ways, the entire point. The change was never meant to be visible from the outside. It was structural, underneath. Somewhere in this stretch of years, you stop checking the account out of anxiety and start checking it out of habit, the way you check the weather. It stops being an emotional object and starts being an administrative one. This shift, more than any single number, is the actual marker of change. Money that used to cause a small daily spike of dread now causes almost nothing. You do not notice this transformation happening. You only notice one day that it already happened. You are 32. The number is $41,000. You remember distinctly the Tuesday with the cereal, 6 years earlier, staring at $52 in a savings account and asking yourself, without words, how long this goes on. You know the answer now, though it isn't the answer you expected. The answer wasn't a raise. It wasn't a windfall. It wasn't a single dramatic decision that flipped a switch. It was one $30 transfer, set up on a Tuesday night you don't remember, that you never had to think about again. You never had it. That's the part almost nobody tells you. The turning point doesn't look like a turning point when it happens. It looks like nothing. It looks like $30. It looks like a decision so small it barely qualifies as a decision, made by someone who is tired of doing the same math every single day and wanted, more than anything, to stop having to think about it. Somewhere right now, someone is standing at a counter, eating cereal, doing the math they always do. $800 something in checking, $50 something in savings, a number that doesn't leave room for anything. They are not failing. They are maintaining the way you maintain for 4 years, and they don't yet know that the way out isn't a bigger number coming in. It's a smaller number, moved automatically, before the decision to spend it ever has the chance to exist.
The account was $0, functionally, for 4 years. Not because of a single bad decision, not because of a lack of effort, because the structure had no room in it for anything else. And then one decision, not a big one, not a brave one, just a $30 transfer that removed the need to decide again. Changed the structure underneath everything else. The number was never really the point. The system was, and once the system existed, the number simply followed. If any part of this felt familiar, that's not an accident. Most of us start in the same place. Most of us do the same math standing at the same counter. If this helped you see your own numbers a little differently, the smallest thing you can do is hit subscribe. It costs nothing, and it means you'll be here for the next one. And if you want to see where this actually started, the first video is linked right here. Watch that next.